Board of Supervisors meeting for the month of March, please. Show a pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody, to our March School Board meeting. It's nice to have everybody. We would ask all the attendees to please sign in, please. The Township Board of Supervisors meeting is being videotaped, as I think you can see. Is anybody else videotaping or anything at all? Please announce it now. Okay, thank you. Comments by the audience members of any agenda item will follow completion of the board member discussion of the topic. Please wait to be recognized by the chair, then advance to the microphone and clearly identify yourself. Statements to the board will be limited to 3 minutes. No exceptions. Shout-outs from the audience will not be acknowledged. If, in fact, and this happens numbers of times, if, in fact, you speak and then someone else gets up to speak and you want to refute it or you want to say something, that's fine. However, you'll have to wait until everybody has their turn. When they have their turn, then you can get up and say your second or third or fourth item, okay? So we do it that way. Proposed items to the, submitted to the township manager. They must be submitted to Mary, our township manager, and Madeline by 12 noon of the Wednesday before our meeting. And I think I explain this each time, but I think I almost have to. We have to give respect to my colleagues for people that, things that are coming in, you want us to read. You can't pass something to do justice for our taxpayers or for you that are sitting here unless we read and understand and know what we're going to vote on. If you can't do that, then we don't want it at least to have it a week in advance. And that's when I'll move right in then into, which is fortunate, I hope everyone has read our auditing report, because that's very important, and it's important to the monies and everything that we do in this thing. So, gentlemen.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Jeff Kowalczyk. I am a, let me get to the microphone before I go too far. And actually, let me start right these are a brief summary of our results. Okay. Thank you very much for having us out here tonight. My name is Jeff Kowalczyk, and I am a partner with Barbicane Thornton and Company. With me tonight is Eric Willey, who is the supervisor involved on your engagement. So he performed the first level of detail review and was out here working with our staff on your audit. And then I provided that second level concurring review. We also have an independent partner who also looks at all audits to ensure that we're complying with our requirements as well as yours. The document that I've handed out provides a brief summary of the results of this year's audit. You may notice that we are here a little earlier than we've been in prior years. I'm very pleased to say that because everything was ready at the township, we were able to progress at an advanced rate, and we were able to issue the report with a report date of February 13th. I am pleased to report that out of the approximately 40 municipalities in Pennsylvania we work with, yours was the first one that we had issued.
Cheers.
Thank you.
To our staff.
Cheers to your team, because well earned. So there were a couple things that we looked at this year because there were some changes in the environment that Pennsylvania municipalities work in. One change was Act 10 of 2016, which expanded the allowable investments. We looked to see if the township had invested in any new items as a result of that. We did not see any changes. All of your investments are still fully compliant with Pennsylvania law. There have also been changes this year in the form and the timing for the summary financial statements that get published in a local newspaper. They've simplified the report so that it doesn't take up as many lines. It's a little less advertising expense, but it does still provide valuable information to the members of your municipality. I'm not sure if you've put that in the newspaper yet, but I know that that is ready. The old date was March 10th. You actually have until April 15th now, so you're well ahead of schedule, and I wouldn't anticipate any issues regarding that. I guess the most important thing is probably to tell you the results of the audit, and the most important thing is our auditor's opinion. And in our opinion, we found that your DCED report was fairly presented in accordance with the rules of the DCED. It's called an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion, and that is the highest level of assurance that we are able to provide as your auditors. Because of the requirements to report on your DCED report, your reporting is on a basis that is other than generally accepted accounting principles. It's just there's some differences in the way that you report on a cash basis. So you're focused on when cash comes into and leaves the township, as opposed to an accrual basis where you would have certain receivables and payables. Cash basis is permitted and prescribed by the DCED, and you are fully compliant with it. Financially, we had a couple little adjustments just to reclassify things and tidy things up, but overall, the numbers that you saw during the year should be consistent with what you see in the audit report in front of you. As you know, you have about $18 million in cash as of December 31st, 2016. About $8 million of that is in your pension plans, which is set aside for future retirement of the employees, current and prior, of the township. You also have about $6 to $7 million that is set aside for various long-term capital and special revenue projects, part of your township's commitment to ensuring that you are funding not only the current year, but the long-term projects that maybe go up and down year to year, and you're ensuring that you have the funds available for those. At this point, I would like to open it up to any questions that you may have.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've got a couple.
Sure.
First of all, in the summary you just handed out, what does Act 10 provide for that some of us may not be aware of?
Sure.
Expanded allowable investments. Could you just cite some examples?
Yeah, probably the most relevant example is negotiable certificates of deposit, which are certificates of deposits that are traded. They get a little bit better interest. You wouldn't want to really go out and just go invest in that, but Pliget and PISLAF, the various liquid asset funds that are available for Pennsylvania governments, have been slowly incorporating these into their investment offerings. So that's where you might see the opportunity in future years. Some of the other things are things like bankers' acceptances, which aren't really used very often. They're functionally equivalent to CDs. So you don't really see them very often. But they were just kind of tidying up some of the language.
Thank you for that. The second question I had, it has to do with the relationship between capital expenditures and operating expenditures.
Sure.
You have presented a total of, for 2016, of $6 million in expenditures of $6,238,619, and capital expenditures of $980,471. Is it fair to say then our total expenditures include the capital expenditures to the tune of $7,200,000 plus?
Actually, the capital expenditures that are reported on that separate schedule are incorporated into the 6.2.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Glad I asked the question.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea is they want to identify those projects that are going on that have this capital outlay, because the DCED basis, unlike some other bases of accounting, doesn't capture fixed assets as an ongoing asset. They wanted some way to capture that activity separate from just your regular revenues and expenditures.
Okay, so then page 18 basically is an extraction of capital expenditures and employee compensation from that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Barbara?
I just have a small question.
Yes.
At the very beginning, it talks about Schuylkill Township, and then a comma, and then Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. So we are a separate municipality from Phoenixville. I was curious as to why they were synthesized.
Yeah, I believe it has to do with the mailing address. I'd have to double check that. Is
that what it
That's
is?
the mailing address, yes.
I was puzzled. It's just.
Yeah, it's a peculiar element of Pennsylvania municipalities where the town for the zip code and the mailing address doesn't align with the township in like 50,
To have our own
60
zip code, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that in Pennsylvania that we don't see in other
Okay.
states.
This was to prove to Fred I really read it.
Yeah,
Anyway, thank you.
it's on page 1. She may not have read.
With the new state laws that are coming
Yes.
out and the changes in auditing purposes and such, are we up to date on those?
Yes, as far as I am aware, yes.
Okay. And number 2, did you have an exit interview, say, with our township manager and our financial person? So bring them up to date?
Yes. Yep, we meet throughout the audit. Obviously, we're on site. The last day that we are on site during our field work, by that point, we have pretty close to a draft statement available. So at that point in time, we do sit down to go over it. We also do separately issue a formal draft once that's available. And I'm not sure if we met in person at that point this year, or if we discussed it via phone.
We discussed it via phone.
Via phone, but we do ensure that we
In other
have
words,
that.
What I would say, being on the liaison administration, is there any borderline issues that you think that we should improve in at all to make it easier for you or make it easier for us in our auditing or in our accounting procedures?
No, at this point, we've had recommendations in prior years, and we've seen them implemented. We did have one recommendation this year that was a rather small one relative to some of the things we've talked about in prior years. And it's developing a formal capitalization policy to identify what should and should not go on that page 18 schedule. And there's a policy in place right now that it's more of a guiding principle at this point, so the idea is just to put that in writing.
Well, the township thanks you, and I know you're getting paid for it, but we still thank you for the hard work that you do. And everything. Hang on for a minute. Would you come up to the microphone, please?
Please stay. Lori Griggs, I was a supervisor about 4 or 5 years ago for 5 of my 6 years. And we kept using like 1 or 2 banks. And like Citizens Bank right now is running a special with 1.6 for CDs. Could we as a township do a better job if we would source our CDs more places to maximize? Are we doing the best we can to get the best returns possible with our taxpayers' money?
Sure, there's a lot in that question, and I'll try to answer as much as I can.
I think that's more of a question to the Board of Supervisors rather than to our auditors.
Yeah, if you'd rather that I defer
No,
to
you
you,
can
that
go.
would be. What I would say is that as part of our audit each year, we do look not only to ensure that you're getting appropriate results on your funds, but also that you are maintaining the safety and security of those funds. As part of that, we do ensure that all of your funds that are held in institutions are covered by FDIC insurance or are adequately collateralized. I will say, as you all know, interest rates do continue to be at very low rates. I have heard some rumors that might be starting to change. So, you know, the organization, I always recommend regularly revisiting how you're handling your funds, ensuring that you are continuing in the way that you should. Our experience has been that you do actively manage those.
Right.
Well, as the chair, and I'm sure the rest of my colleagues, our treasurer and our township manager and such, we feel that we have a good thing going in the way we're doing our.
Actually, if I could just answer your question, Lori, Mary and I do get together at least twice a year, sometimes even more, and we do talk about what different banks have to offer. And if there is something out there that's a little better, we talk about whether we want to move it or not. And it happens throughout the year. It's not just once a year, and it's not just whenever we feel like it. We actively work together doing that.
Thank you, Martha.
Right. And in terms of our pension fund, I have served on this committee for a number of years, and we actively participate on a quarterly basis with our fund manager to make sure that the pension fund is doing what it needs to be vis-à-vis the investments that we have, so that the retirement funds are there for when our employees need them.
Okay, folks, I think we've had enough of the report.
Can you tell taxpayers what we paid that accounting firm to do the audit? Is that a market question?
So I can tell you what we budgeted, but well, we haven't received a bill from them yet, so we budgeted about $11,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Not just thank you, but thank you for the opportunity to continue working with your organization and to come before
Thank you very
tonight.
much.
We appreciate the relationship and hope to continue it. And thank you for letting me.
Mhm.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, let's move back into the business. Did all of you read the minutes?
Yes?
Uh, On the Regional Planning Committee, did you receive, on paragraph 2 of your original planning, the report, in the minutes, have you received any discussion on that, of the report? Page 2.
We had, as you know, a regional planning committee meeting on the 22nd of February.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, and I substituted in for Barbara. She was unavailable. The focus of the meeting really was on updating the comprehensive plan for the region, and the sub-focus, if you will, on that was a presentation by our consultant, Ed Thurkoff, of statistics relative to the region. We're talking about land use, natural terrain. It's actually, there were 3 different maps that were included in this presentation, and the waterways. And then some tables on age-related data, which he then translated and showed us in the form of graphs on the screen. It was pretty comprehensive, and one suggestion I made to him is I think he's in agreement, and the rest of the committee's in agreement, is there's 2 ways of looking at the data. There's the graphic way, and then there's the tabular way, and I urged him to include both in the plan, if only having the tables in an appendix, so you can take a closer look at what's going on municipality by municipality. It's broken out that way. So it was a very good meeting.
Thank you,
One more thing here. The next meeting is going to be devoted to the vision part of the planning process.
Okay, why don't you bring that up in the reports when we go into 2-minute reports?
Okay, well, I thought you were asking me to give a report.
No, I was going over the minutes here.
Oh, okay.
Bill, do you have, under legislation, is there anything, going to be anything more on the Meehan barn?
Yeah,
We can wait.
Well, yeah.
Minutes, that's all.
yeah, the barn is up for foreclosure sale, and that'll be sometime in the middle of March. And my goal at this point is to get just a small lien on the property for the $1,000 in fines that were awarded by the court to make sure that we're paid at the time of the sale. Now, I fully expect the sale to be postponed, but at least we're making some progress in that regard.
All right, I'd like to hear a motion to accept the regular board meeting, the minutes and the acceptance of the reports.
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving into 2-minute reports. Do we have any 2-minute reports, not announcements?
If I could just make a request of Madeline, can you insert what I just said in the 2-minute reports?
Sure.
Good.
I would like to bring up that there will be a zoning meeting this month on the 13th at 7 o'clock. There will be a zoning meeting at 7 o'clock. Did everybody read the document that Susan sent to us on at-risk document. Did everything?
Yes.
Did everybody read that we have one in our township, which is the Meadowbrook Farmstead, which is on Campbell Lane, Scople Township, which is at risk?
Yes. Actually, I had received it and sent it to Susan. Thank you for sharing it with everyone.
But I just hope that everybody read it because it's very important.
I actually got it from a number of people on the Historical Commission. They're very on top of it.
Yeah, I made sure they got a copy.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Any more 2-minute reports? By the way, I would also like to announce to anybody that, so they know, they should know, but I think it's wise to bring it up. We've had some very, very heavy discussions at the commission meetings this month. We usually do, but if you want to know what's going on, come to the commission meetings. The open space, very important. Planning commission, very important. Historical, very important. They're going over, did you know they're going to start naming streams in the township?
Yes.
Okay, well, maybe you do. I'm talking about the public, not just the
I know,
audience.
kidding.
There's a number of things that are going on that you taxpayers should be interested in, so we don't come back and say, well, you don't know and it's not being talked about. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we delegate from this Board of Supervisors to our commissions, and they bring in their suggestions to us to pass the item if it's passed by the commission. So just let you know, I think it's important that we do it. Okay, let's go.
Fred,
on.
I actually have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
On March 1st, as tax collector liaison, but this is March 1st, our tax bills were going out today in the mail.
Okay.
So if, I know it's bad news, I know people don't like to hear that, but it is what it is, it's how we function. Our tax collector will be getting those out in the mail today. If you don't receive one within the next couple of weeks, please contact Kyle Shirkness. If your taxes are held in escrow with your mortgage company, it is your responsibility to send it to your mortgage company. He will not do that for you. So that's my 30-second report.
All right, that was my next item, to go to the treasurer. You're the treasurer, you want to go into payment of bills and where we stand financially?
Okay, and as far as our treasurer's report is concerned, we have just over $3.3 million left in our general fund. I did review all of the bills this afternoon. Everything is ready to be paid. We are on budget and we're on target. We're actually a little bit under budget, which is very good. And does anyone have any questions? No?
Do I hear a motion? I'll make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report and we pay the bills. All
I'll
right.
second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is announcements. Barbara,
Okay.
you want to make yours first?
Yes, well, in speaking of the naming of the small streams in the township, I have to really congratulate members of our Environmental Advisory Council, Tom Heisey, Jerry O'Dell, and Dorothy Bedford from the Historic Commission. I put them in touch with Mike Bertram, who is a historian formerly in the township, but they've done a marvelous job in a preliminary way. So the public is invited to a meeting at the Phoenixville Country Club on Thursday, the 23rd of March, to hear about what's going on and give their input with regard to the naming of the streams and the quote-unquote runs that feed into the creek and the Schuylkill River.
If I could just, excuse me, Barbara, if I could just piggyback on that announcement. There's going to be a speaker at this March 23rd meeting that the EAC has contacted. In the audience.
I have a question when you're done.
And the subject will be invasive plants. So that will be an interesting educational endeavor to basically educate our residents, because I venture to say that a lot of residents aren't really sure about what an invasive is versus a non-invasive. As an example, the wisteria bush is an invasive plant. So, anyway, so that's also part of that, sorry.
Okay, that's quite all right, Jim, thank you. Also, every year Chester County does its summer town tours. And because of the nature of this year of the Revolutionary Troops wintering at Valley Forge, this year, our Historic Commission will be working with the Friends of Valley Forge, and there will be a special tour on August 24th. So I think that's a Thursday evening. So it's very unusual, but our Historic Commission is working with Valley Forge National Historical Park on this. And finally, excuse me,
Is this the one on the 24th?
I'm sorry, I haven't seen that brochure at this moment, so I can't comment. In any case, the Schuylkill River Heritage Center on March 24th will be hosting a very unusual event in that the curator of the National Watch and Clock Museum, located in Columbia, about 7 miles west of Lancaster, will be doing a presentation. It's an extraordinary venue. So I brought flyers along for those who wish to attend. No registration is required, and it is open to the public. Thank you, Fred.
And sure, no problem at all. I don't mean to inundate the people on the website, but it is just a minute, please. We have the program at the Phoenixville Country Club on Thursday, the 23rd, is invasive of plant polluters, weeds and such, and everything that gets into your gardens, and you might receive a brochure that looks like this. It's going to be a very exciting thing. We have Kelly Stitch is coming out to speak at us. We've got 3 items on there about which have been mentioned, but still they're exciting. Naming unnamed streams, environmental resource inventory, what we have for that. And also, we're going to be talking about Birdtown. Anybody that has anything to know about birds or such. But it's going to be one of the more informational things that we've had before. So I would recommend that all of you take a look at it, and starts at 7 o'clock, 7:30, right?
7:30, I believe.
7:30 to 9, okay? Another thing, if anybody's interested in any, I hope you go to our website, because we're looking for people for our commissions. And if anybody, we're looking for a vacancy on the zoning hearing board. If anybody is interested on any of these, we would hope that you would get interested and do help us out with that. It would be good. March 4th, that's this Saturday, starting at 7:30, be a pancake breakfast at the Valley Forge Fire Company. Ensure that we go to that and help and back our fire company. Very important. We also have to my colleagues, I'm just going to remind you, there's the Cato Spring Conference with a number of seminars that we have that's on the 9th. So make sure you go to that. It's a breakfast and then seminars that we have. It's a very nice affair, so I would make sure that you take a look at that. We also have on I'll be bringing this at the April meeting, but so some of you people in your homes can get used to it too. At the Cat Pickering campus, there's going to be a household hazardous waste event at Cat Pickering, okay?
What day?
April the 8th, Saturday. It will be from 9 to 3 with no electronics. No electronics will be accepted. Okay? I think that's all the announcements I have. I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Chris Perla, just a quick question with regards to the naming of the streams after all these years. A, why? What's the rationale? And B, is this costing taxpayers money, and is that a good use of our taxpayer dollars if we are actually spending money to name a stream when we could certainly use the kids at Schuylkill Elementary to do the same thing?
I can answer that question, no.
It's not costing any money.
That's all that matters.
And it's dedication on the part of, there's a lot of history in Schuylkill Township.
I understand.
And a lot of these runs, if you will, for example, there is one of them that goes from Valley Forge Mountain down to Valley Creek, and it's going to be named after the Fisher family. And the name Fisher, he was an officer in the Civil War and decorated. So
Fine.
it's a tie-in.
I was more concerned with the actual, if there was any dollars being
Nope.
spent on something.
It's all
that
volunteer.
to me wouldn't
It's all
necessarily
volunteer.
warrant it.
You were looking at me for an
If
answer,
you're
I
gonna
believe.
discuss it with him, do it afterwards.
I think we've answered it. I think we've
Yeah, you
answered
did,
it,
and
guys.
that's all I want. Thank you.
Laurie, the board has the first option here. Sir, this naming of streams is important for a couple of reasons. One is, we have two parts of our ordinance which deal with streams. One involves the flood hazard district, which is a mandatory federal issue, if you will, within which you can't build structures, with one exception for stormwater control. But the other equally important reason is the Environmental Advisory Council also has coincident buffers that they've put in there, that they have as part of the environmental resources ordinance, part of our ordinances. And these buffers are important from an environmental standpoint for basically control of erosion, okay? And so if we can name these little streams, and we can, I think, take a step further to educating our residents as to the importance of these streams and ways of controlling some of this erosion that we all can see is happening.
Thank you.
Fred, 10 seconds. The board's answer is a little misleading. There's no Schuylkill Township taxpayer fund going to this, but your Chester County taxes are funding the effort.
That's not true.
The Chester EAC and us, doesn't it report up to the regional planning effort?
Hey, let's not get into
No.
that. No.
This has nothing to do with anyone but what we're doing in here. They will eventually write a letter to the USGS and saying, we're suggesting making these name changes. And then the USGS will look at that letter and they'll say yes or no, and that's it.
Thank you.
But no taxpayer money is being spent on this.
Thank you.
So that's very misleading.
I apologize.
Jim, can you tell me when your Northern Committee's gonna be, have its meeting?
Yeah, our next meeting is March 7th,
March when?
March the 7th, 10 a.m.
What time?
10 a.m.
I have a new ordinance that I would like to recommend it to you.
You want to make an appearance?
Yes.
All right.
All right, moving right along. Bill, legal matters?
Nothing to report, thank you. The usual,
Quiet month, huh?
I love that, nothing to report. All right, we move into consideration of amended and restated indemnity agreement regarding the highway occupancy permit concerning certain off-site stormwater facilities at Schuylkill Township.
I can talk about this, Fred. PennDOT requires that townships get involved in indemnity agreements to protect PennDOT in the event of failure of facilities which go in on state highways. We had an interim early agreement prepared before the final plans were, the ASBIL plans were approved. So we prepared an amended agreement, however, we're still negotiating certain terms of it with PASD, and it's not ready. And we wouldn't sign it until it's signed by them. So there's nothing to do on this. I would take it off until it's ready. No urgency to it, but there's nothing to be done tonight.
Everybody understand that?
Yeah, do we, I haven't seen that as a document. Maybe I missed something.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It was in last month's, but he needed to make changes.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll get it forward to you. Any more discussion on that? Okay. We'll move down to any more old business. Hearing none, we'll move into new business. Presentation of regarding conservation easement acquisition. Bob Mock, would you please make the presentation?
All right. Does this work? Can you hear me back there? No, okay. Well, let's see. Time has come to stop referring to parcel C as parcel C. Parcel C is really the Freedoms Foundation of Valley Forge. And the Open Space Commission passed a motion to recommend to the board that they approve funding a conservation easement on a segment of the Freedoms Foundation of Valley Forge property. It's located on Route 23. It's adjacent to Valley Forge National Historic Park. It's a 75.1 acre property in total. The conservation easement area covers 41.6 acres, or I should say will cover 41.6 acres of that property. And included in the conservation easement area is the Medal of Honor Grove, which is a tribute to recipients of the Medal of Honor, which is our nation's highest honor. It's a very beautiful property. Those of you who have been there will attest to that fact. It has a very substantial view shed, an impressive view of the Schuylkill River. It's mostly wooded with a narrow stream, and it has a very significant forest canopy. It has over 4 miles of public trails, and it has an outdoor stage and natural amphitheater, which will be available for township events, up to 2 events per year.
Great.
It preserves a wildlife corridor, and of course it preserves open space. This property is included in the 2009 Schuylkill Township Open Space Map. You can see it right here. That's the property. It's right, you can see the Schuylkill River to the northeast of the property. You can see the green area is Valley Forge National Historic Park, and it's on Route 23. By the way, this map doesn't reverse. Well, you know what? I'll just say, you don't need to look at the map while I'm saying this. The open space map that was created by the Open Space Commission in 2009 was approved unanimously by the Open Space Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors. That's our template for our effort to preserve open space in the township. The overhead, I don't know how that came up, but it's gone. Okay. The overhead aerial view of the property gives you a better sense of its location. This is Route 23. The total 75.1 acres is included within the black border. The conservation easement area is included in the orange and black border. The largest portion of the conservation easement area, about 40.3 acres, is very densely wooded. And then there's a smaller area of about 1.3 acres, which is the location of the natural amphitheater and the stage. This is a conservation easement transaction. I'll explain what a conservation easement transaction is in a minute. The appraised value of the property is $2,215,000. The purchase price, which is equivalent to the appraised value, will be funded as shown here. $1.45 million will come from our township open space funds. It's not coming from the general fund, it's the open space fund. And $800,000 are coming from the county grant. This is a very, very significant grant. We're privileged and pleased and grateful that the county is granting that amount, and it's emblematic of their belief that this is a very high-value property that should be preserved as open space. Natural Lands Trust will be the conservation easement holder, have responsibility for monitoring and enforcement. In a conservation easement transaction, it's a very cost-efficient approach to preserving open space. Rather than paying the full purchase price and buying land, the conservation easement transaction is one in which development rights are purchased from the landowner. So the land is then restricted. The landowner continues to own the land, but that land that is covered by the conservation easement can never be developed. And subsequent landowners have the same restrictions on development. So it's preserved as open space in perpetuity. Now, one of the drivers, one of the reasons that we're moving forward with our open space program is it's what our voters want, okay? On November 7th, 2006, in an off-year election, 62.4% of our voters showed up to vote. 62.4% of our voters came to the polls. And of those who came to the polls, 62% voted in favor of the open space referendum. So the township and the Open Space Commission have a clear mandate to preserve open space in the township. Also, you know, we have a very limited universe of open space candidates in our township. We just have a handful of prospects, because much of the land that was in open space, much of the open space present about 20 years ago has since been developed. So we need to act now before the remaining open space is lost. And we need to preserve properties in perpetuity, not only this one, but additional properties, so that we can avoid sprawl, congestion, and in many instances, tax increases, and also preserve our environment and preserve our quality of life. So, my understanding is that, Bill, you will make an announcement of a public hearing.
I hereby announce that the law requires a public hearing on any expenditure under the open space law. That hearing will be held here at the Township Hall on Wednesday, April 5th, 2017, concurrent with our monthly township meeting. It will begin at 7:30, and there will be a similar presentation. Bobby might do the same presentation.
Okay.
And then we'll close that, and at that point there may, not required, but there may be a vote on the confirmation of the acquisition of the easement at that time. And it will also be advertised in the newspaper twice before the hearing.
Any discussion on this?
No.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure. Bob, just out of curiosity, why would we pay for a section of land like the middle of Honor Grove, where it seems like they would already have an interest in not developing it? Like, we're paying them to not develop it, but it seems like an area where they would already want to not develop it. Is there something you're concerned about in the future, or is that kind of part and parcel of the whole thing? We needed to include.
No, that's a very good question. How shall I say this? There are alternatives to the Freedoms Foundation, okay? One is to sell a portion of their property. It's zoned administrative and research. It could be developed. And they don't want to pursue that path, and they don't want to be in a position where they're compelled to pursue that path. They want to preserve it, and the open space option was the best option for them. But it's not their only option.
Right, so is it that we really need to make it competitive enough by including land like that so that they would sell the whole parcel to us as an easement?
Correct.
Okay, I see.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, Barbara?
Just a follow-up question. Is there any opportunity for any properties having fewer acres than 10 to be considered by the Open Space Commission?
That is a possibility, and we from time to time consider, but basically, our proactive approach has been to properties in excess of 20 acres. We did one transaction that was 16.2 acres, but we may expand because of the fact that we have a limited number of.
I was going to say,
candidates.
there were some questions that came up, and a 5-acre property, for example, that might be considered as an important one down the road, giving us some versatility in the way that we can approach conserving open space.
Correct. And it's driven by policy decisions of the board. If they want a park, an active recreation park, maybe a 5-acre or a 10-acre property would make sense.
Right.
There's also the factor here of the Conservancy and whether they feel they can handle numerous small properties, okay? So it's.
Well, it's interesting you mention that, because when we went through a exhaustive search for a land trust, we interviewed 9 land trusts. We culled our list to 3 finalists. Each of the 3 finalists made a presentation in a public meeting. All the board members were present at the time, and we selected Natural Lands Trust. Now, one of the points that we made is that we may do large conservation easements, and we may do small conservation easements. Now, it's less cost-effective to do a small conservation easement, because the legal costs and the process, there's not a material difference by virtue of the transaction.
Just to follow up, I won't discuss the specifics at this time, but if a particular property of fewer, we don't have to introduce a new referendum in order
not at
to.
all. There's
That's
no
what I wanted to
limitation on
clarify.
Size of property, none whatsoever.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
let's not get into.
No, I just wanted to ask that question.
Okay?
Fred,
All right, everybody.
Fred, 30 seconds, Fred. Susan, when Norm Vutz was chairman of the board, the Freedoms Foundation literally came to us because their fundraising was inadequate. And they literally did present an idea to put a nursing home or some apartment complexes on that steep slope behind the Medal of Honor Grove. And Barbara and Jim, your memories are better than mine, but it was at risk. It was at risk to have something developed in the back behind the Medal of Honor Grove. So this is outstanding.
Including some of the Medal of Honor Grove.
Right, including some of the Medal of Honor Grove. So Andy Dinneman got involved. Andy Dinneman got Route 23 renamed Medal of Honor Grove. He had a huge public effort to have people come clean up the Medal of Honor Grove, not Martha at Schuylkill taxpayer expense, but volunteers from all over Chester County
I
came
felt
in.
like Bob answered my question. Are you asking another question?
No,
or-
Either you
yes,
or
I wanted to
Martha.
ask how much
One
is
person
left
has to
now?
sign.
How much money is left from the referendum?
Well,
Okay.
at this point, 4.6 minus 1.4. Well, that's
Okay.
what will take place shortly.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on this? All right, let's move on then, please. We'll move into resolutions and ordinances. Excuse me, the consideration of resolution 2017-06 regarding the greater Philadelphia region completing 180 miles of circuit trails by 2025 in order to achieve the 500 miles of completed circuit trails.
This was a subject that was discussed at the Regional Planning Committee meeting that was just held on the 22nd of February. There was some back and forth as to what this involved and what the miles meant and everything. But the committee was unanimous in supporting it from the representative standpoint. But they also felt that each of the individual municipalities might make the case stronger by passing their own resolutions.
Thank you, Jim. And I think people should realize too that in this, the Township of Schuylkill is only one of 385 municipalities in this region that is part of that. There it is right there, folks.
And if I'm reading this map correctly, the trails that they're proposing doesn't even go into Schuylkill Township. Am I reading that correctly?
No, they
No.
really, at this point, no, they do not.
Yeah,
So really what we're doing is approving the concept
right.
Exactly.
of this
Of this
circuit
of this
trail.
map.
It's concept.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, you know how I feel about the regional plan, but you all approved it?
I even,
Well,
from
we-
being out of the country, I sent a message to
Okay,
Ed
but
Thurkoff
do we,
approving this.
Do we have to approve this thing?
Well, it's a,
It's only
it's a
yes, it is,
resolution.
because it's a resolution.
So normally, there's a vote to approve the resolution, and then there's a.
Do I hear a motion to
I'll
approve?
make
Can I
that
just ask
motion.
And I'll
question?
second the
Wait, can I
motion.
just ask another question? We're not committing to any funds at this point, right?
No,
This is
No,
just a general
no.
encouragement.
We are supporting the concept of this
All you're
in
doing
a,
is supporting
in
the
a,
concept.
in a multi-county way in both Philadelphia and the surrounding counties.
Okay,
That's
No
a
fun.
question I had too, sir.
okay.
Okay, I had the motion, I have the second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Don't know, folks. Don't know if it's good, but that's it.
Just
That's
a
it.
follow-up comment on this, if I could, Fred. The Valley Forge Park and the state have done the township a favor by enabling Schuylkill Township residents, among others, to drive into the park, if you got a bicycle, get on your bicycle, get on the paved path, and you can actually cross the Schuylkill River on the new Sullivan Bridge,
Right.
and you can get on the other side at Bettswood, and the Schuylkill River Trail is within spitting distance. You can get on that and go to Philadelphia, or you can go in the direction of Pottstown. But there's also the river trail that the park has that parallels that's closer to the river itself. So we have now a more expanded ability to make use of trails through the park, if you will.
Okay.
just a postscript, if I can. In 1986, my son, for his Eagle Scout project, put the mile markers on the trail in Valley Forge Park. So ancient history.
All right, moving along, the subdivision land development, consideration releasing the escrow number 2, the BFW, FPWLP 305 Kimballton Road project, an amount of $82,356.05, which leaves a remaining letter of credit will be $161,283.76.
And this was recommended by our
Mr.
engineer.
Sartor's.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second item is also a consideration of releasing an escrow number 4 for the Phoenixville Area School District Early Learning Center in the amount of $769,957.20.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have some public discussion.
Good evening, Kathleen Morez, Meadowbrook Lane, and thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Perry. I would ask that the township not release all the monies for the school district. The reason being the landscaping along Meadowbrook Lane is in jeopardy. The trees are already starting to fail. It was very poorly executed. trees were put in with the wire still wrapped around the root ball. If you go there now, there are holes that are still uncovered. The root ball is in there in a knot. The dirt was never put over. They seem to me to be way too close together. You know, eventually, if they survive at all, they'll go together and strangle each other. So I would ask that you would take that into consideration. I've brought it to the attention of the school district on a couple occasions, and their responses, they do have a remedy should these plants fail, but it's a 2-year remedy. Yeah, so.
Two things. One, I've all my paperwork and I misplaced this paper. How much is left on that?
$2,800,000.
We already, there is going to be.
There's still a balance of $2,800,000.
Thank you very much. That's what I needed to
I
know.
knew
Thank
there
you,
was,
Martha.
but
Yes.
I'm sorry, but.
Thank you.
I think Fred has also been dealing with that, right? Fred, you've also been
Thank you.
monitoring that, so.
Okay, not only that, I have talked to our chief arborist that we have in the township that's going to take a look at it, Jerry. And take a look at this. And I've walked it too, by the way, today. So,
Thank you, Fred.
take a look at it.
I had Eric from Colonial Gardens also come and take a look, and he's also very concerned that a lot of them were sitting in water. So, yeah, very
Thank you
poorly
for bringing that
executed.
to us, our attention.
Okay, the motion's been made, it's been seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Additional business, I just got a quick thing I think you might like to do.
And I've got one too, Fred.
This is just general. This is World War II generation who are now more than 72 years or older. Baby boomers who are 57 to 71. Generation X who are 37 to 56. Millennials who are 17 to 36. Generation Z, these are born between 2001 to present. And guess what? Baby boomers are now retiring or at about 10,000 a day.
Wow.
Just thought you might. All right, Jim.
Yeah. This is just a follow-up on that police report on the traffic study of Reinhardt Lane and,
Talamore?
what's the other one? Powderhorn, exactly. Looking through it, I'm talking to Jim in the back there. I guess my first question is, were these counts done with a speed display sign off? Okay.
No, on?
On or off?
No, it was off.
It was off, yeah. Because I'm looking at this column and it says display off. I guess that's what that
That
means.
Turned off for a reason.
Yeah, right. So you wouldn't be biasing this unnecessarily biasing the speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess my general comment is that there was some occurrences of exceeding the speed limit, but not by a whole lot. 3 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour, maybe max, in both of these locations, both of these streets. I guess my other question here is this was, let's take Reinhardt Lane as an example. The dates of the study were January 22nd through January 28th. And you say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so those are the 3 days within that date frame? Okay. And is it correct to then assume that the data from those 3 days was like merged together?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought it was.
Okay, moving to public participation.
Yeah, hi, Chris Perla, and I'm actually.
Did you sign in, sir?
Yes, would
Yes,
you
I
share
did
your
sign
name
in.
with all of
Yes,
us, please?
Absolutely.
What is your name, sir?
It's Chris Perillo, and I actually live in the Moore Hall development, and I'm wondering, you said Reinhardt. Reinhardt is not the main thoroughfare through the actual neighborhood. It's Moore Hall Drive that runs from the front to the back. So then my question is that really giving an accurate reflection of the actual speed? Because I continue, and I apologize, I should have been here in January when in December I had requested the 3 speed bumps, but other things took precedent. I'm still noticing the speeding between 6 and 6:30 a.m. I'm still noticing the speeding more than in 3 to 4 miles an hour in excess on a regular basis.
We're talking about Moorhall Drive, I presume.
I am, correct, because Reinhardt actually comes in from the back and circles around in a different manner, so maybe the slowing down occurs because there is a curve in the road. But Moorhall Drive is a direct shot through the
It
neighborhood.
would be interesting to do a follow-up study on Moorhall Drive.
Yeah, well, I plan on it.
Okay.
My question is, it's $1,000 for the speed, for each of the individual speed bumps. It's $3,000 for the permanent ones. We won't go to the temporaries because as we discussed in December, it could ruin the actual roads. So my thought is, why not install those speed bumps to see what would actually happen to the traffic flow and to the speeds, irregardless of whether or not the study comes back and says that there's actually only a 3 to 5 mile an hour excess speed? Because my concern as we approach the warmer weather, the kids are back outside. The summer approaches. The kids are in the street. They're riding their bicycles. The neighborhood does have, I would say, somewhere in the neighborhood, and I'll keep my comments so that I don't go over my 3 minutes, probably 300 to 400 kids in that neighborhood. Again, I don't want to be in a situation where we have something that unfortunately occurs because we didn't do something we could have. And the revenue, if my calculation is still correct, we were $3 million under budget roughly in the December minutes.
No, there's a certain surplus that has to carry over until we get our next tax return.
I understand.
Yeah.
But still, $3,000 to help alleviate a potential problem that should never occur. So my question is, when will the vote actually occur to approve or not approve speed bumps through Moorhall and the other concern for Tullamore that probably has a similar challenge as well?
Two or three things I would mention, some of them may not hold true, but to consider. One, if we do it to you, then there's at least 8 or 10 others in the area in our Schuylkill Township that we want it done too. You say $3,000 for each one, that can move into
It's
consideration.
$1,000 for each one.
I understand that, that's conservative money to that respect. Number two, if you put the speed bumps in, there's the possibility you put them in a macadam and everything, then during the winter, unless you put the type that you can take up or take down, you can spend $3,000 on the ones you put in, and then because of the plows, it takes it up, you're gonna put another $3,000, such like that.
According to Mr. Morrison back in December, the ones that would be permanently put in are the ones that the actual plows can go over. It's the ones that would be removed that would be the issue. My second point to that, Mr. Perry, is that so
I'm not
what?
downing it, by the way.
So what? We're the township residents, and
We
we're
don't-
concerned about our citizens. So if
I
they decide to
agree.
come for their neighborhood, then you can address it. I'm here
Sure.
on behalf of my colleagues and
No,
my
I'm
neighbors.
just bringing it up.
Absolutely.
You know, can I actually respond to you, because
Yeah.
Mary and Fred and I met with other township members, police from other townships, Jim, our roadmaster, and we've done a lot of research on this, and actually the bumps in any form are really not the best alternative. So what we're developing now is a process, so that when someone comes to the board and says there's a traffic problem, we have a process. The first step in that is for the chief to go out and investigate,
Right.
is there really speeding? Because we've also learned through our investigation that sometimes there's a perception of speeding, and it's really not there, because as someone's stationary and a car goes by, it seems like it's going by fast. Now, I'm not saying that's your case. You might actually have speeding. So we're trying to determine that first, and then we're gonna look at what the best options are. And actually, they suggested things like changing the road lines, because that's actually a better way to deter traffic, to get people to slow down, than bumps. And we also found that in other townships, there's actually a big liability with bumps. For example, in one of our neighboring townships, one of the fire department members fell off the truck when they went over a bump. That's resulted in liability for that township and injuries to that fire person. So we're trying to do this in a more logical way, to figure out if there's a problem, and then if there's a problem, what's the best solution for that road? So that's what we're in the process of doing with the chief, and I think he is on top of it.
Okay.
So
Well, you'll
please continue to follow
Yep,
up with
I
us,
will
but that's what
continue
we're
to follow up.
handling.
The other thing I just ask is if the board could try and put the minutes out from the prior month in advance of the actual meeting, because the February minutes are not posted to the website, so I think it would be
We
helpful
just
for all
approved
residents.
them tonight.
We
They
can't
cannot
post
go
them
out.
until they're
You
approved.
can't post them in
Yeah,
advance?
it's a draft, and it has to get
Exactly.
approval.
You can't even
Exactly.
post them as a draft?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Could we get maybe, Jim, will you possibly commit to getting a study on Moorhall Drive done by next meeting?
I can try, but we're actually in the process of getting a better way to do this.
Okay.
Because putting that speed sign out, even though it's not displaying anything, I have to put it in the road, so it's going to maybe affect it, so that's why we're following another avenue to do a little bit better job.
Are we talking about the display sign?
Yeah,
But you're saying you had but the display sign was off, right, for these two studies?
it still has to sit in the road.
Well, why is that?
I have to put it someplace.
I mean, if you're not,
Yeah,
Jim,
unless I find somebody's property that I can put it on, but
if you're not gonna turn it on, why does it have to be there?
it's working, it's just not displaying it.
Yeah, well, I know that, but it's, I think I think it influences the study. If it's sitting in the middle of the road,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
well,
That's why
That's why he's trying to come up with a better process.
correct.
well, yeah, it's logical to get that thing out of there if you wanna reflect true speeding, you know? Because it's not gonna sit there forever. You're gonna move it around the township,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any more public participation?
As directed, I sent an email to the board 1 week ago, so it could be on the agenda, and I'll take just 3 minutes. So these are matters for the board's attention and actually discussion and action and taxpayer attention. Number one is this weekend, concerned constituents at the Phoenixville Area High School had 600 people on a gorgeous 72-degree Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. asking questions of Ryan Costello's picture. He didn't show up. But I think Schuylkill Township ought to host here in our building an open house there's a huge, vast majority in this nation that aren't happy with Washington. And I think we as a township, maybe it could be one of our nights at the Phoenixville Country Club, or we could do a firehouse, but I think we in Schuylkill should have a town hall of some kind. Second is, years ago, you remember, Fred, when you were on the school board, I ran a fundraiser called Schuylkill Springtime Stunners House and Garden Tour. And I'm decided to hold it again. We raised for the Phoenixville Community Education Foundation $15,000 in one day, from noon until 4, 8 to 10 of the most beautiful homes in Schuylkill Township. And I brought pictures and I gave them to the videographer. I passed it out at the Historic Association. But there's a house on Natural Lands Trust. The Natural Lands Trust owns the easement for the 38-acre Mainwaring estate. There's going to be a house open on May 28th, a house and garden tour. And I don't want to give the money to the school district. I want to give it to Schuylkill Township. I talked to Jim Fetterman, Chief Fetterman, to your Schuylkill Township Police Association president about having Blue Lives Matter, having it go to our Police Officers Association and having the sign say Blue Lives Matter. They have asked me not to do that. They said that it shouldn't commingle efforts with the township. But what I'm hoping you all will do, John and Bill and Fred and Barbara and Jim and Martha and Susan, is I started a political action committee called Parents and People for Public Parks and Playgrounds. I would like this money to go for playground equipment that could go in Valley Park or Pickering Preserve, or, I mean, tonight we heard of an amazing, wonderful success story of our referendum for open space. And I know I'm running out of time. So the houses, there's 2 new houses shown. I'm trying to get Anderson Farm open, but it might be legal liability with that barn. But there'll be beautiful homes on May 28th, $40 a ticket for 4 hours to go in these homes. But the money, I want the money to go for playground equipment. And Barbara, you and I, and Jim, you and I have gone around when I was a supervisor with you guys, and most votes were 4-1. So I'm hoping tonight it'll be 4-1 for playground equipment to be. I've talked to the YMCA, and maybe if we could put the playground equipment in Pickering Preserve, then people from the Y could walk
from the Y and use it. I have names for each thing now, like Gabby. There's a little girl in East Pikeland who died of cancer, and her parents have agreed that one of the pieces of equipment can be Gabby, the Gabby Gateway. I mean, we drive from Schuylkill Township to Mandrake Park. I don't know how many of you on the board or the audience have children. You have children. But we get in our cars and we drive to Mandrake Park. We drive to Reeves Park in the borough. We drive to East Pikeland for that wonderful thing by Kimberton Inn. We
And Susan,
drive.
Can I just ask you, what are you looking for from our board?
I
So
want
if you want to donate playground equipment to the Y, why don't you contact them and tell them you'd
I
like
don't
to do
want
that?
it. The Y is a private club. You have to pay $83 a month for the privilege of going in the Y. I don't go to the Y anymore. I can't afford it.
So is there a park here that you want us to put this
You
playground
want you
equipment?
all to decide. You decide, Susan.
And you're going to fully pay for all the playground
I'm not going to
equipment?
fully. I mean,
So you want
we
voters
raised
to pay for more
we
playground
raised
equipment?
15,000 net because we had restaurants serving food, we had florists providing flowers, but with $40 a ticket in advance and 45 or 50 at the door, we had it's a huge turnout. So I want this board to decide where you want the equipment to go. And Bill, I know there's legal liability, but I want to donate the money to go for the children of this township to use playground equipment in where we have Valley Park. And nobody goes there. We have this nice trail in Valley Park, and nobody goes there. So we have these pocket parks of zero use to anybody. Maybe it should go in the middle. The Meadow Honor Grove is not appropriate. So I would like this board to consider active. The issue is active recreation.
First of all, I'll give 3 items. The one of an open township meeting, say Costello or something like that's a heavy crap. But I mean, first of all, we have a fire exception for here. You only can get so many people in here. Wouldn't be enough to be in this building at all.
Right.
Same thing with the fire hall. We couldn't do it down there. The only place there's a possibility you possibly could do that, you'd have to go out and talk to the Phoenix Hill Country Club.
Right, and we already have,
So-
our 4 meetings this year are already scheduled.
So anyhow, that's one. Number 2, I would suggest for you for your house tour, which sounds exciting. I would recommend that you get brochures. You've got till May 28th, so we've got 2 months to go. I would like to see brochures out out into the community.
Yeah.
Well, they've got it out.
It's on
And
LoriGriggs.com,
you've got to know if anybody's going to be coming around or what your cost is going to be and everything else. I mean, there's a lot more planning that you've got to do. So I would recommend that you move into that, get the brochures to us, and we can make some decisions and such like, go from there. As far as playground equipment, I'm sure all of my colleagues go along with playground equipment, but there's a possibility, we haven't moved into it yet. I know Mrs. Moran may not be happy with it, it won't be on her side, it will be on the other side. There's a few acres there.
Where?
Where the new schools are going and the learning center and things like that. And it's been, if Fred would have an agenda, my agenda would be to put a playground in that part of the new learning center and the new kindergarten center, and do that. But whether that'll come to fruition, I don't know. So we'll go from there.
And let me just comment,
Prefer I
excuse
go
me.
to Alan Fegley then and go ahead
We've
and,
already discussed it.
okay.
And just as a point of fact, you mentioned Valley Park. It's not quite ready for prime time. As per John Sartor's report, we're still waiting for the final permit in order to go forward in implementing a plan that's been developed by a whole task force comprised of not only our board members, but members of the Historic Commission, as well as the Environmental Advisory Council. So it's a work in progress.
You gotta realize Valley Park is not a good location.
And it's not a good location because of the wetlands.
Fred, I love your idea about Meadowbrook. I love that.
Okay, everybody. I would like to hear a motion that anybody have any, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Just one last thing, and maybe the roadmaster knows about this, but along Pot House, right about where the driveway is to the Levin property, that wire that's hanging down into the roadbed, on the shoulder. If that could be fixed or taken away, or it's
Okay.
just,
Mary, do we know about that, or?
No, but that's a PennDOT road, so we'll have to get with PennDOT or the
Okay.
utility company.
I saw it today, it's looks like a Verizon line.
It's either
Verizon.
Verizon or
Okay.
Comcast,
I was
yeah.
gonna say some utility out there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Maybe you ought to call Stan Johnson and see if we can get that.
It's, well, I'll call Verizon.
Verizon.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right, we'll see.
Yeah, I saw it today, okay.
All right, is there any more public participation? All right, I will take a motion to adjourn, to move into executive session.
So
We have-
move.
We have some litigation things to go into.
I move to go into executive
second?
session.
Second.
All in favor?
I
So move, 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
How'd you like the front row?
Board of Supervisors are back in session again. We were in executive session and went into litigation, talked about personal matters and litigation and various issues. There's no motions to be made, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Supervisors meeting.
I so move.
Okay, all in favor?
I
So moved, Board of Supervisors over.